"If you can translate this document, I'll give you my entire salary," laughed the millionaire CEO. What the Filipino janitor did next left everyone speechless. In a world where dignity is often ignored, one woman with a past no one could have imagined silenced a room full of executives with just her voice. This is not just a story about language, it's a journey of redemption, identity, and unexpected power. Get ready to be inspired by a tale where intelligence meets humility and where a forgotten soul teaches a lesson the wealthy never saw coming. Stay with us, because what happens next will touch your heart in ways you never expected. The 52nd floor of Skyline Developments gleamed like a freshly polished diamond. Floor-to-ceiling windows captured Manhattan's skyline in all its glory, while marble floors reflected the morning light that streamed through the glass. It was a temple to success, to wealth, to power, everything that Elena Santos did not possess. She pushed her cleaning cart quietly down the corridor, head slightly bowed, navy uniform blending into the shadows. At 53, Elena's face carried the gentle lines of a life fully lived, her dark eyes holding depths most people never bothered to explore. Her black hair, streaked with dignified silver, was pulled back in a practical bun that kept it out of her way as she worked. 3 years at Skyline, and still, most executives walked past her as if she were merely part of the furniture, invisible, a ghost that appeared only when messes needed cleaning. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore," she said, softly as the CEO strode past, trailing the scent of expensive cologne. Nathan Whitmore, 42, with perfect teeth and a tailored suit that cost more than Elena's monthly rent, barely glanced her way. "Morning," he muttered without slowing his confident stride, already checking his phone. Elena didn't mind. This was the dance they did every morning. Her greeting, his distracted acknowledgement. It was more than most offered. She maneuvered her cart toward the executive conference room. The board meeting would start in an hour, and she needed to make sure everything was spotless. As she wiped down the massive glass table, she could see her reflection, small, careful, methodical, the perfect cleaning lady. No one would ever guess who she had been before, who she still was, beneath the uniform. The conference room doors swung open, and Elliot Shaw, the company's CFO, entered with a stack of folders. Unlike Nathan, Elliot always noticed her. "Morning, Elena. Sorry to interrupt your work." "Not at all, Mr. Shaw. I'm almost finished." Elliot placed his folders on the table and adjusted his glasses. At 60, he was the oldest executive at Skyline, with kind eyes that reminded Eleanor of her late husband. "Big meeting today," he said conversationally. "International partnerships, lots of money on the table." Eleanor nodded, continuing to polish the glass. "I hope it goes well. Nathan's been working on a deal with a Chinese firm. Between us, I'm not sure it's the best move for the company." He glanced at her. "Listen to me talking about company business with the cleaning staff. You probably don't care about all this corporate nonsense." If only he knew how much she understood, how much she heard every day as she worked silently in the background. "Everyone's work matters, Mr. Shaw," she replied simply. He smiled. "You're right about that. Anyway, I'll let you finish up." As he left, Eleanor continued her work, making her way around the room with practiced efficiency. When she reached the whiteboard, she noticed intricate Chinese characters written in the corner. Without thinking, her fingers traced the elegant strokes. Shanghai Dragon Industries, the name of the Chinese company Elliot had mentioned. "What are you doing?" The sharp voice made her turn. Nathan Whitmore stood in the doorway, his expression suspicious. "Just cleaning, sir," Elena said, dropping her hand quickly. "Were you reading that?" He pointed to the Chinese characters. "No, sir. Just wiping it clean for the meeting." Nathan approached, studying her with narrowed eyes. "You sure about that? Because it looked like you were doing more than cleaning." Eleanor met his gaze steadily. "Just doing my job, Mr. Whitmore." He seemed ready to press further when his phone rang. After checking the caller ID, he gave her one last look. "Make sure everything's perfect. The Shanghai representatives will be here in 30 minutes. "Yes, sir," she replied, returning to her cart. As the meeting time approached, executives began filtering into the conference room. Elena finished her work quickly and was about to leave when Nathan called out, "Hey, cleaning lady, can you stay for a minute? We might need coffee service." She nodded, positioning herself discreetly in the corner with her cart. The room filled with men and women in expensive suits. their collective confidence practically a living entity. Among them were three Chinese businessmen, impeccably dressed, their expressions carefully neutral. Nathan stood at the head of the table, charismatic and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we finalize our partnership with Shanghai Dragon Industries. This deal will revolutionize Skyline's position in the Asian market." The meeting proceeded, with presentations and discussions that Elena followed silently. She understood every word, including those exchanged in Mandarin between the Chinese representatives when they thought no one was listening. "They're desperate," one whispered in Mandarin. "We can push for more concessions." "The contract already favors us heavily," another replied. "They haven't even read the fine print." Elena kept her expression blank as she refilled water glasses. No one noticed her slight pause when she overheard these exchanges. No one saw the concern that flashed briefly in her eyes. The meeting stretched on, tension mounting as final terms were discussed. Finally, Nathan produced a document covered in Chinese characters. "This is the final contract, as provided by our partners." Elliot frowned. "Nathan, we agreed to have all contracts in both languages." "It's a formality, Elliot. Our legal team has the English version." Nathan's smile was tight. "Trust me, everything's in order." The Chinese representatives exchanged subtle glances. Elliot persisted. "I'd still prefer to see both versions side by side before we sign." "For God's sake, Elliot," Nathan snapped, patience wearing thin. "Do you read Mandarin? Does anyone here except our guests?" A tense silence fell over the room. Nathan's eyes swept the faces around him, then landed on Elena in the corner. Something reckless sparked in his expression. "Hey, cleaning lady," he called out, a hint of mockery in his voice. "You want to make some extra money today?" Elena looked up, her heart beating faster. "Sir?" Nathan held up the contract, his smile growing wider, more theatrical. "If you can translate this document, I'll give you my entire salary for the month, $15,000. The room erupted in uncomfortable laughter. The Chinese representatives shifted nervously. "Nathan, that's inappropriate," Elliot muttered. But Nathan was on a roll, playing to his audience. "What do you say? 15 grand for reading some Chinese scribbles. Should be easy, right?" Eleanor stood very still, looking at the document in his hand. 25 years of her life before Skyline flashed through her mind. The classrooms, the lectures, the languages that had once been her passion and livelihood. "Are you serious?" she asked quietly. The room fell silent at her response. Nathan, caught off guard but unwilling to back down, nodded. "Dead serious. Translate it word for word, and $15,000 are yours, but if you can't, you clean my car for a month, no extra pay." Elena stepped forward, her movements measured and dignified. She took the document from his hand. "Deal," she said simply, and began to read. "Commercial partnership agreement between Skyline Developments and Shanghai Dragon Industries," Elena began, her pronunciation flawless, her voice clear and confident. Clause 1. The Chinese supplier agrees to deliver construction materials at a 40% discount in exchange for exclusive rights to all Skyline projects in Asia for the next decade. The room fell into stunned silence. Nathan's smug smile froze on his face as Elena continued, her translation fluid and precise. Clause 2. Skyline agrees to utilize imported labor provided by Shanghai Dragon for all construction projects at rates 50% below standard American wages. Elliot Shaw's head snapped toward Nathan. "What?" But Elena continued, without pause. Clause 3. For every American worker retained on Skyline projects, a penalty of $10,000 per worker per month will be paid to Shanghai Dragon Industries. The Chinese representatives were now speaking rapidly among themselves in Mandarin, too quietly for others to hear. But Elena caught every word. "Who is she? How does she know our language?" Clause 4, she continued, her voice growing stronger. Skyline agrees to maintain absolute confidentiality regarding labor practices and wage structures. Violation of this clause will result in a penalty of $5 million. By the time she reached the final clause, detailing how Skyline would gradually transfer technological patents and proprietary building techniques to the Chinese firm, the room had transformed. The atmosphere of casual superiority had evaporated, replaced by shock and, from some board members, rising anger. Elena handed the document back to Nathan, whose face had drained of color. "I believe you owe me $15,000, she said quietly. He stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Where did you learn to read Mandarin?" he demanded. "You didn't ask that," she replied. "You asked if I could translate it." Elliot stood up, his face flushed with anger. "Nathan, we need to talk now privately." He turned to the Chinese representatives. "Gentlemen, please excuse us. We'll need to postpone finalizing this agreement." As the room emptied, with executives filing out in stunned silence, Nathan remained frozen, staring at Elena. When they were alone, he spoke, his voice a harsh whisper. "Who are you?" Elena met his gaze steadily. Something in her had shifted. 3 years of invisibility had ended in a single moment of recognition. "My name is Elena Santos," she said. "I was a professor of linguistics at the University of California, specialized in Asian languages. I taught there for 15 years. I speak 7 languages fluently: Tagalog, English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, Japanese, and Vietnamese." Nathan sank into a chair. "Then why are you cleaning your offices?" She smiled faintly. "Life happened, Mr. Whitmore. My husband got sick, cancer. I took a leave of absence to care for him. We spent everything on treatments, maxed out credit cards, borrowed from everyone we knew. He still died. Then the university downsized during the recession. My position was eliminated." Her voice remained even, though the pain was still there, buried beneath years of acceptance. "After that, depression hit. Hard. By the time I was ready to work again, I was 50, with a gap in my resume and a field that had moved on without me. No one wanted to hire me for teaching positions. I applied for administrative roles, translator jobs, anything related to my skills. Nothing." She gestured to her cleaning cart. "This job offered health insurance. I needed that for my mother's Alzheimer's care, so I took it." Nathan struggled to reconcile the humble cleaning lady with the confident linguist who had just exposed his secret deal. "For 3 years you've been, spying on us?" Eleanor shook her head. "I've been cleaning your offices. But people say things when they think no one is listening, when they think the person in the room doesn't matter." She paused. "I've heard a lot of things, Mr. Whitmore, about how you've been cutting corners, about the workers you've let go to save costs." Nathan stood abruptly. "That's confidential company business. You had no right to what? To have ears, to understand multiple languages." Her calm was unsettling. "I didn't seek out information, it found me." "You could be fired for this," he threatened. "For what? Accepting your challenge? Translating a document when asked?" She met his gaze. "Or is it for knowing too much?" The door opened, and Elliot returned, his expression grave. "The board wants to meet, without the Shanghai representatives." He looked at Elena. "Ms. Santos, thank you for your intervention. Please wait outside." She nodded and moved toward the door, but Nathan's voice stopped her. "Wait." He looked torn between anger and something else, perhaps respect. "The money. I'll have it transferred to your account. HR has your details." "Thank you," she said simply. "And Miss Santos," Elliot added, "please don't leave the building. We may need to speak with you." Further, as Elena stepped into the hallway, pulling her cleaning cart behind her, she felt lighter than she had in years. Not because of the money, though it would certainly help with her mother's care, but because, for the first time since she'd put on the Navy uniform, someone had seen her, really seen her. She waited in the small break room reserved for maintenance staff, sipping a cup of tea, and wondering what would happen next. An hour passed before her phone buzzed with a message from HR, confirming a $15,000 deposit to her account. Then, minutes later, a call from Elliot Shaw. "Ms. Santos, could you please come to the executive floor? Conference room 3. When she arrived, she found not just Elliot, but the entire board waiting. Nathan sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. "Please sit down," Elliot said, gesturing to an empty chair, not in the corner but at the table. For the first time in 3 years, Eleanor took a seat among the executives of Skyline Developments. The boardroom felt different from this angle. Elena had cleaned this table countless times, but sitting at it transformed her perspective. The executives studied her with new eyes, some curious, others wary, a few openly impressed. "Mrs. Santos," Elliot began, "what happened today has raised serious concerns about the Shanghai contract." Nathan cleared his throat. "Let's be direct. The translation you provided revealed terms that were not what we had been led to believe." "Terms you hadn't bothered to verify," remarked Vanessa Chen. the only female board member besides the recently appointed COO, Rebecca Morris. "The point is," Elliot continued, "we've decided to halt negotiations with Shanghai Dragon. Their representatives have left, quite unhappy about the turn of events." Eleanor nodded, but remained silent. This wasn't her business meeting. She was still processing her own unexpected transformation from invisible to indispensable in less than 2 hours. "But that leaves us with a problem," Nathan said, leaning forward. "We need those materials. We need an Asian partnership. We're just not willing to agree to those exploitative terms." Rebecca, the COO, studied Elena intently. "That's where you come in, Ms. Santos. We'd like to hire you as a consultant." Eleanor blinked. "I'm sorry?" "A language and cultural consultant," Rebecca clarified. "We need someone who can help us navigate these negotiations properly. Someone who understands the nuances we're clearly missing." "I'm a janitor," Eleanor said carefully. "You're a linguistics professor with expertise in multiple Asian languages who happens to be working as a janitor," Elliot corrected. "We'd like to utilize your actual skills." Nathan still looked uncomfortable, but nodded in agreement. "Consider it a second position. You'd keep your current job if you want, for insurance purposes," Elena noted. "Yes," he acknowledged, "but you'd also consult on international negotiations, translate documents, and perhaps teach some basic language skills to our international team." Elena's mind raced. This wasn't what she had expected when she'd translated that document. Vindication, perhaps. Termination, possibly. But not this. What would this entail exactly, she asked. 20 hours a week to start, Rebecca explained. Flexible scheduling around your current duties. You'd report to me directly. Salary commensurate with your qualifications and experience. I'm thinking $75,000 annually, prorated for part-time work. The figure made Elena's breath catch. That was more than double what she earned cleaning. Combined with her current salary, it would change everything. Better care for her mother, perhaps even moving to a nicer apartment. "And if I decline?" she asked, meeting Nathan's eyes. A flicker of respect crossed his face. "Then you walk out with your $15,000 bonus and return to your regular duties. No repercussions." Eleanor considered the offer. Part of her wanted to decline on principle. These people had overlooked her for years. But another part, the practical part that had survived tremendous loss, recognized opportunity when it appeared. "I'd need some accommodations," she said finally. "My mother's care takes priority. I would need flexibility for emergencies." Rebecca nodded. "Of course. And I want to be involved in the new negotiations with any replacement for Shanghai Dragon, not just as a translator but as an advisor." Nathan frowned, but Elliot spoke before he could object. "Agreed. Then I accept," Eleanor said simply. "Excellent," Rebecca smiled. "We'll have HR draw up the paperwork. You can start next week." As the meeting concluded, the executives filed out, each nodding to Elena with new recognition. Only Nathan lingered, waiting. Until they were alone. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "Translate the document? Because you challenged me." "No," he said. "Why did you accept this position? After how you've been treated here, I wouldn't have blamed you for walking away." Eleanor studied him. "Mr. Whitmore, when you lose everything, career, spouse, financial security, you learn to recognize second chances. This is mine." He nodded slowly. "Fair enough. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for not seeing you before today." "Most people don't see the cleaning staff," she replied without bitterness. "It's a convenient blindness." As she rose to leave, he called after her. "Ms. Santos, that contract would have been a disaster for this company. Thank you for stopping it." She offered a small smile. "You're welcome, Mr. Whitmore." The next week passed in a blur of transitions. Elena still arrived early to clean, but now her days extended into a second role. HR cleared out a small office on the 47th floor. Nothing fancy, but with a window and a door that closed. Her name appeared on the company directory. Elena Santos, International Consulting. The first time she walked into the executive dining room for lunch, in business attire instead of her Navy uniform, the stares were impossible to ignore. Conversations paused as she made her way to a table where Rebecca had waved her over. "You look different," Rebecca commented, as Eleanor sat down. "I'm wearing clothes I haven't worn in 3 years," Eleanor admitted, "from my teaching days." "They suit you better than the uniform," Rebecca said, "though I noticed you still cleaned this morning." "The insurance," Elena explained, And honestly, I'm not ready to give it up entirely. It's reliable. Rebecca nodded understandingly. Trust takes time to build. But speaking of your new role, we've scheduled a video conference with a Taiwanese firm tomorrow. I'd like you to sit in. As they discussed the details, Elena noticed Nathan entering the dining room with several executives. Their eyes met briefly before he looked away, continuing his conversation. Some adjustments would take longer than others. That evening, Eleanor visited her mother at Sunshine Valley Care Home, a modest facility in Queens. Maria Santos sat in the community room, her eyes focused on the television, though Eleanor suspected she wasn't following the program. "Mama," Eleanor said, softly taking the seat beside her, "I brought your favorite pastries." Maria turned, her face lighting up with recognition. "A good day, then." "Anak, my daughter, you look pretty today." "Different." Elena smiled. "I got a promotion, Mama. A second job, actually, using my languages again." "Teaching?" Maria asked, momentarily lucid. "Consulting. But a little teaching too, maybe." Her mother patted her hand. "I always said your gift for languages would take you places. Your father would be proud." Elena swallowed the lump in her throat. "I brought good news. With this new position, we might be able to move you to Cedar Grove." Cedar Grove was the facility they dreamed of. Better care, private rooms, specialized memory programs. Until now, it had been financially out of reach. "Don't waste money on me," Maria protested. "It's not waste, Mama. It's what all those years of education were for, to take care of family." As Elena left the care home that night, she felt the weight of the past 3 years beginning to lift. Tomorrow, she would sit in a business meeting, offering expertise she thought might never be valued again. She would still mop floors in the morning. Her choice, her security blanket. But something fundamental had shifted. She had become visible again. 6 weeks into her dual role at Skyline, Eleanor established a new routine. Mornings still began early with her cleaning duties, now completed more quickly as she'd been assigned a smaller section of the building. By 9, she'd change into business attire in the small bathroom adjoining her office and transform. To Ms. Santos, international consultant. The transition wasn't seamless. Some executives who had previously ignored her now overcompensated with exaggerated friendliness. Others seemed uncomfortable, as if her presence reminded them of their own blindness. And a few, like Vanessa Chen, treated her with genuine respect that required no adjustment at all. Nathan Whitmore remained the most complex. Sagace. In meetings, he deferred to her expertise, but maintained a professional distance. Eleanor sensed his struggle, acknowledging her value while reconciling it with his previous dismissal of her. Today's meeting focused on the new partnership with Formosa Building Materials, the Taiwanese firm that had replaced Shanghai Dragon. Elena had helped negotiate terms that were fair to both sides, without the exploitative clauses of the previous contract. "The final document looks good," Elena confirmed, reviewing the bilingual agreement. "They've accepted all our modifications to the labor practices section." Nathan nodded. "And you're confident the translation is accurate this time?" "I've verified every clause," she assured him. "Both versions say exactly the same thing." "Good." He hesitated. "The signing ceremony is next week in Taipei. Rebecca suggested you should attend as part of our delegation." Eleanor looked up in surprise. "Me? You're the reason we have this deal, instead of the Shanghai disaster. And frankly, your language skills would be invaluable there." The invitation represented another step in her reintegration into professional life. Yet, it posed a practical problem. "My mother," she explained. "I can't leave her for that long." "It's 3 days," Nathan said. "Surely there are temporary care options." Eleanor felt a flicker of irritation. "Mr. Whitmore, temporary caregivers are disruptive for Alzheimer's patients. My mother needs consistency." He looked properly chastened. "I apologize. I didn't consider that." The meeting concluded, but as Elena gathered her papers, Nathan lingered. "Miss Santos, wait." He seemed uncharacteristically hesitant. "I have a proposal regarding your mother's situation." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "Yes? What if we arranged for her to be moved to a better facility, one with specialized memory care staff who could handle your absence occasionally? Skyline could cover the difference in cost as part of your compensation package." The offer stunned her. "That's generous, but why would you do that?" Nathan met her eyes directly. Because you've saved this company millions with your intervention on the Shanghai contract. Because we need your expertise internationally, and because—" he paused, "because it's the right thing to do." Elena studied him, searching for ulterior motives but finding only sincerity. "I'll consider it," she said finally. "Thank you." Later that afternoon, Eleanor received an unexpected visitor. Sophia Reyes, a member of the maintenance staff who had started 2 months ago, appeared at her office door. "Miss Santos, do you have a moment?" Sophia asked nervously. "Of course. Come in." Sophia entered cautiously, still in her cleaning uniform. "I hope I'm not overstepping. But everyone in maintenance is talking about you, about how you went from cleaning to—" She gestured at the office. "It's a unique situation," Elena acknowledged. "The thing is," Sophia continued, her voice gaining confidence, "I heard you're starting language classes for staff. I wanted to ask if cleaners could join too." Elena smiled warmly. "Absolutely. That's exactly who the classes are for." Sophia's expression brightened. "Really?" "Because I have a business degree from the Philippines, but my English needs improvement for professional settings. I've been applying for office jobs here, but no one sees past the uniform," Elena finished for her. "Exactly." Elena felt a surge of purpose. "Sophia, the first class starts next Tuesday at 5:30, conference room B on the 40th. Floor, we'll work on business English. Bring anyone else who's interested." After Sophia left, Elena sat reflecting on their conversation. How many others like Sophia worked in the building? How many invisible people with untapped potential? That question led her to approach Rebecca with an expanded proposal for the language program, which would now include professional development components. Rebecca not only approved, but allocated additional budget. "This could be a recruitment pipeline," Rebecca noted. "We're always looking for multilingual staff. Why not develop talent we already have?" By the time Elena left work that evening, the language program had evolved from a small training initiative into a comprehensive professional development opportunity for support staff. It gave Elena a renewed sense of purpose, not just reclaiming her own professional identity, but helping others find theirs. At home, she researched Cedar Grove Care Center, the facility Nathan had indirectly offered to help finance for her mother. The amenities were impressive: private rooms, gardens, art therapy, specialized memory care. Maria would receive better care there without question. But accepting meant acknowledging that her relationship with Skyline and with Nathan Whitmore had fundamentally changed. It meant believing in the permanence of her new position, in the value the company now placed on her. After 3 years of invisible labor, followed by this sudden reversal of fortune, trust came slowly. Yet as she reviewed the facility's memory care program, Elena allowed herself to hope. Perhaps second chances were real after all. The next morning, she arrived earlier than usual. The executive floors were empty except for the night security guard Mr. Carter finishing his shift. "Morning, Professor," he called, using the nickname that had spread among the support staff since her promotion. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. How was the night?" "Quiet as usual. Heard you're starting those language classes. My daughter's interested. She's studying international business at community college." "She's welcome to join," Elena said warmly. As Mr. Carter left, Elena began her cleaning routine. She still found peace in the methodical work, in knowing she was preparing spaces for the day ahead. When she reached Nathan's office, she noticed a file on his desk labeled Cedar Grove, Santos. He had already started the process even without her confirmation. Elena paused, mop in hand, struck by how quickly life could change course. 6 weeks ago, she had been invisible to him. Now he was arranging premium care for her mother. The elevator dinged, signaling the arrival of the first executives. Eleanor resumed mopping, but with a new lightness in her movements. Later, she would change into her business clothes and become Ms. Santos, the consultant. But for now, she was still Elena the cleaner, a role she no longer resented, but one she had outgrown. Like a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, she was transforming and taking others with her. The Taipei skyline glittered against the evening sky, a constellation of lights that reminded Elena of Manhattan but with its own distinct character. From her hotel room window, she watched a world she had only taught about for years, now tangible and immediate. Her first international business trip in her new role felt like stepping into a parallel universe, one where her knowledge was valued, her voice heard. "Ms. Santos, they're ready for us in the conference room," called Rebecca, knocking lightly on the connecting door between their rooms. Eleanor straightened her blazer, new, purchased specifically for this trip, and gathered her materials. "Coming?" The Formosa Building Materials headquarters occupied the top 10 floors of a sleek tower in the financial district. As the Skyline delegation was escorted to the conference room, Elena observed the subtle power dynamics at play. Nathan led their group, with Rebecca and Elliot flanking him. Eleanor walked just behind alongside 2 other executives who had initially been skeptical of her promotion. Chairman Liu greeted them in English, but when Eleanor responded in flawless Mandarin, his expression shifted from polite to genuinely pleased. "You speak our language beautifully," he remarked in Mandarin. "Where did you study?" "UC Berkeley for my undergraduate. Degree, then doctoral studies at Yale," she replied. "My dissertation focused on comparative linguistics between Chinese dialects and Filipino languages." As they settled around the table, Elena noticed how the atmosphere changed. The Taiwanese executives, initially formal, became more relaxed, engaging in side conversations in Mandarin that included her naturally. Nathan, observing this shift, caught her eye with a nod of approval. The negotiations proceeded smoothly. When technical terms arose, Elena bridged cultural and linguistic gaps, explaining nuances that might otherwise have been lost in translation. By the time they broke for lunch, both sides were satisfied with the progress. "You were right to insist she come," Elena overheard Chairman Liu tell Nathan as they moved toward the dining room. "Her understanding of both our language and business culture is exceptional." Nathan's response surprised her. "She's exceptional in many ways. We're fortunate she chose to share her talents with us, especially after we overlooked them for so long." The admission of past blindness spoken to an external partner suggested a deeper change in Nathan than Elena had recognized. That evening, after a formal dinner with their Taiwanese counterparts, the Skyline team gathered in the hotel lounge. Conversation flowed easily, lubricated by success and premium whiskey. "A toast," Elliot proposed, raising his glass, "to Elena, without whom we might have signed a disastrous contract with Shanghai Dragon, and without whom today's success would not have been possible." As glasses clinked, Elena felt a bittersweet satisfaction. Professional recognition at 53 felt different than it might have at 35, tempered by experience, loss, and the knowledge of how quickly fortune could change. Later, as the gathering dispersed, Nathan asked to speak with her privately. They moved to a quiet corner of the lounge. "I wanted to update you on the Cedar Grove arrangements," he said. "Everything's set for your mother's transfer next Wednesday. I took the liberty of upgrading to their premium memory care program." Eleanor felt conflicting emotions: gratitude for his assistance, discomfort at the power imbalance it created. "Thank you," she said carefully, "but I need to be clear about something." Nathan looked puzzled. "What's that?" "I appreciate what you're doing for my mother, truly, but I need to maintain professional boundaries." "I'm not sure I understand." Elena chose her words deliberately. "In the past weeks, our relationship has shifted dramatically. I've gone from being invisible to being valuable to you and to Skyline. I'm still adjusting to that change, and I need to ensure that my professional contributions remain separate from personal obligations." "This isn't charity, if that's what you're suggesting," Nathan replied, a hint of defensiveness in his tone. "It's compensation for your expertise." "Then let's frame it that way officially," Elena said. "A formal adjustment to my benefits package, documented through HR rather than a personal arrangement between us." Nathan studied her, understanding dawning in his expression. "You're establishing boundaries, making sure this can't be perceived as favoritism or something else." "Exactly." He nodded slowly. "I respect that. We'll make it official through proper channels." The conversation shifted to safer territory. The next day's signing ceremony, plans for implementing the new partnership. Yet something had clarified between them. Elena had demonstrated that while she was grateful for the opportunities Skyline now offered, she would not be indebted. Her dignity was non-negotiable. Back in New York, Elena helped her mother settle into Cedar Grove. The private room was bright and spacious, with large windows overlooking a garden. The staff knew to speak to Maria in both English and Tagalog, easing her transitions between lucidity and confusion. "It's beautiful here," Maria said, sitting beside the window. "But expensive, anak. How can you afford this?" My job, Mama, Elena explained. I'm teaching languages again in a way, and my company values it. Maria nodded, then looked confused. Your cleaning job? That too, Elena said gently. I do both now. As weeks passed, Elena found rhythm in her dual roles. Mornings still began with cleaning, though her area had been reduced to just the executive floor. Her choice, a grounding ritual before transitioning to consultant work. The language program flourished, with 15 participants from maintenance, security and food service attending regular sessions. Elena structured the curriculum to build not just language skills, but professional confidence. Sophia, the Filipino cleaner, with the business degree, emerged as a natural leader among the group. One evening, as Elena concluded a session, she noticed Nathan observing from the doorway. Mr. Whitmore, she acknowledged as the group dispersed. Were you looking for me? Actually, I was curious about your program, he admitted, entering the room. Rebecca speaks highly of it. It's going well. These employees have tremendous potential. Nathan surveyed the materials on the table: business English textbooks, professional development worksheets, resume templates. This is more than language training, he observed. Yes, Elena agreed. It's about creating pathways. Many of these people have education and skills that aren't being utilized. Like you were, he noted. Different circumstances, but yes, similar. Principles. Nathan picked up Sophia's workbook, noting the advanced business terminology she had mastered. What happens when they're ready for more than maintenance work? Eleanor met his gaze directly. In an ideal world, they'd have opportunities to advance within Skyline. You're challenging us to change more than just how we treated you, he said, realization dawning. You're asking us to see everyone differently. Is that unreasonable? Nathan considered this, then set down the workbook. No, difficult maybe. Requiring systemic changes, certainly, but not unreasonable. He paused. Present me with a formal proposal, something concrete we can implement. As he left, Elena felt a surge of purpose, stronger than anything she'd experienced since her teaching days. The translation that had changed her fortune could potentially change others' lives too, a ripple effect of visibility and opportunity. That night, as she worked on the proposal in her small apartment, Elena realized she was building something unexpected from the ruins of her former life. Not just a second chance for herself, but perhaps a first chance for others who remained invisible in the corporate shadows. The boardroom hummed with anticipation as Elena prepared to present her proposal. 3 months after her dramatic translation had changed her trajectory at Skyline, she stood at the head of the same table where she had once been invisible, now commanding the attention of the entire executive team. The Skyline Pathways Initiative, she began, is designed to identify and develop talent within our existing support staff. Our maintenance, security, and food service teams include individuals with degrees, specialized training, and valuable skills that aren't being utilized. Slides appeared on the screen, showcasing statistics she had gathered. 37% of support staff had college degrees, 24% spoke multiple languages, 18% had previous management experience before immigrating to the United States. Currently, when Skyline needs to fill positions, we look externally, Elena continued. Meanwhile, we have qualified candidates already working in our building, already familiar with our company culture. This proposal creates a structured program to bridge that gap. She outlined a comprehensive plan: skills assessment for interested employees, mentorship pairings, educational support, and a clear pathway for internal advancement. The cost was modest compared to the potential benefits in reduced turnover, improved morale, and enhanced company reputation. When she finished, the room remained silent for a moment. Then, Vanessa Chen spoke first. This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need, she said, not just for diversity metrics, but for genuine organizational improvement. Rebecca nodded in agreement. The pilot program Elena's already running has shown impressive results. Sophia Reyes from the maintenance team is now assisting our international accounting department 3 days a week while completing her U.S. accounting certification. Others raised practical questions: budget implications, implementation timelines, measurement criteria. Elena addressed each methodically, demonstrating the depth of research behind her proposal. Throughout the discussion, Nathan remained unusually quiet, observing rather than directing. Only when Elliot called for a vote did he finally speak. "Before we proceed," Nathan said, "I'd like to acknowledge something. Ms. Santos has identified a blind spot in our organization, one that I, as CEO, should have recognized long ago." He looked directly at Elena. "This proposal isn't just about operational efficiency. It's about human dignity and untapped potential. It challenges us to question our assumptions about who belongs where in our corporate hierarchy." The room grew still as he continued. 3 months ago, I made a thoughtless wager that exposed my own arrogance and prejudice. I assumed someone in a cleaning uniform couldn't possibly possess the expertise we valued. I was wrong." He paused. "This proposal asks us if we're willing to examine that same prejudice throughout our organization. I vote yes, not just to the program, but to the fundamental change in perspective it represents." The vote was unanimous. As the meeting adjourned, executives approached Elena with congratulations and implementation questions. Amid the buzz, she noticed Nathan slipping out quietly, a departure from his usual commanding exits. Later that afternoon, a notification appeared on Elena's calendar, a meeting with the CEO scheduled for the following morning. No topic was specified. She arrived in his office precisely on time, now comfortable navigating the executive floor as a peer rather than support staff. Nathan stood at the window, gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. "Mrs. Santos," he greeted her, turning. "Thank you for coming." "Your message seemed important," she replied, taking the seat he offered. "It is." Nathan settled behind his desk. "The board met privately after your presentation yesterday. We've made some decisions I wanted to share with you personally." Eleanor felt a flicker of apprehension. Had she overstepped? Pushed too hard, too fast? "First," Nathan continued, "the Pathways Initiative has been fully funded, with an expanded budget beyond your original request. Rebecca will oversee implementation company-wide, with you directing the program." Relief washed over her. "That's wonderful news." "Second," he said, sliding a folder across the desk, "we've created a new position, Vice President of Professional Development and Inclusion. The board would like to offer you this role." Elena stared at the folder, momentarily speechless. "That's a significant promotion." "One you've earned," Nathan replied. "The salary and benefits package are detailed inside. It includes continued coverage for your mother's care as a standard executive benefit, not a special arrangement." She appreciated the distinction. Her boundaries respected, the power balance adjusted. "This would mean leaving my cleaning position entirely," she observed. "Yes, though I admit I've grown accustomed to finding you mopping my office at 6 a.m., he said with unexpected humor. "But the company needs your full attention in this new capacity." Elena opened the folder, scanning. The details. The compensation was generous, more than she had earned even at the height of her academic career. The responsibilities aligned perfectly with her skills and her newfound mission. "I'll need time to consider this," she said finally. Nathan nodded, unsurprised. "Of course, but there's one more thing you should know before you decide." He hesitated. "The board has asked me to step back from direct involvement with the Pathways Initiative." "Why?" "To ensure its success," he said simply. "They feel, and I agree, that having the program too closely associated with me might create complications, given our history." Eleanor understood the subtext. Her transformation from janitor to executive under Nathan's authority carried complex implications. For the initiative to succeed, organization-wide, it needed institutional backing beyond their individual story. "That seems wise," she acknowledged. "So," Nathan said, rising, "you'll let me know your decision?" "By Monday," she promised, standing to leave. As she reached the door, he called after her. "Elena." It was the first time he had used her first name. "Whatever you decide, thank you for making us see differently." Over the weekend, Elena visited her mother at Cedar Grove. Maria was having a good day, engaged and present as they walked through the garden. "You seem troubled, Anak," Maria observed. "Work problems." Elena smiled at her mother's perceptiveness. "Not problems, opportunities, actually. I've been offered a big promotion." "The cleaning company is making you a manager?" Maria asked momentarily. Confused. "No, Mama. Remember how I told you I'm working 2 jobs now? The office job has offered me a vice president position." Maria's eyes widened. "Vice president? My daughter? An executive?" She squeezed Elena's hand. "Your father would be so proud." "I'm not sure if I should take it," Elena admitted. It's a big change. Maria stopped walking, turning to face her daughter fully. Elena, listen to me. Life gave you hardship when Robert got sick. You lost everything you worked for, but now life is giving back. Don't refuse out of fear or pride. It's not that simple, Mama. Nothing worth having ever is, Maria replied with unexpected clarity. Take the position, then use it to help others like you, people with value that no one sees. Monday morning arrived with Elena's decision made. For the last time, she arrived at 5:30 a.m. in her navy uniform, pushing her cleaning cart to the executive floor. She moved methodically through her routine, vacuuming the conference room, polishing the glass table, dusting the credenzas. When she reached Nathan's office, she cleaned it with particular care. Then she left her resignation letter on his desk, along with her acceptance of the vice president position. By 8:30, Elena had changed into business attire in her office. When her phone rang, she knew who it would be. I hoped you might deliver your decision in person, Nathan said. Some transitions deserve their own ceremony, she replied. That was my goodbye to one chapter. And your hello to another, he noted. Welcome to the executive team, Ms. Santos. As she hung up, Elena looked out her window at the Manhattan skyline. 3 months ago, she had been invisible, a ghost with a mop. Today, she had a voice, a title, and a mission. The true measure of her success, she knew, would not be her own transformation, but how many others she could help become visible too. 6 months into her role as Vice President of Professional Development and Inclusion, Elena had transformed more than her title. The Skyline Pathways Initiative had become her legacy project, expanding beyond its initial scope to encompass all support staff across Skyline's offices nationwide. Today marked a milestone, the first cohort of program participants completing their training and transitioning to new roles within the company. Elena stood in the auditorium, watching as 15 employees in maintenance, security, and food service uniforms received certificates and new job offers. Sophia Reyes, now dressed in business attire, stepped to the podium as the cohort representative. 6 months ago, I was cleaning offices on the 32nd floor, she began. Today, I'm starting as a junior financial analyst. Many would call this a miracle, but it's not. It's what happens when someone finally sees your potential. Elena felt a swell of emotion as Sophia continued. Ms. Santos didn't just create a program. She created a mirror that forced this company to see the talent it had been overlooking. She showed us that our uniforms don't define our capabilities. From the front row, Rebecca caught Elena's eye with an approving nod. Beside her sat Elliot, whose initial skepticism about the program's cost had transformed into vocal support after seeing the results. Reduced turnover, improved morale, and positive media coverage that had boosted Skyline's reputation significantly. Nathan wasn't present. True to the board's recommendation, he had maintained distance from the initiative, supporting it publicly, but allowing Elena complete autonomy in its implementation. Their interactions remained professional, occasionally warm but carefully bounded. After the ceremony, as participants mingled with executives and managers, Elena found herself beside the refreshment table with Mr. Carter, the night security guard whose daughter had joined the program's second cohort. Professor, he said, using the nickname that had stuck, you've changed lives. Here, including mine. Your daughter is doing incredibly well in the program, Elena replied. Her technical skills are impressive. That's not what I meant, he said, his voice dropping. I've worked security here for 12 years. Before your program, executives walked past me like I was part of the furniture. Now they stop, ask questions, see me as someone with thoughts worth hearing. He straightened his uniform tie. That's a different kind of dignity. His words stayed with Eleanor as she returned to her office. No longer the small space on the 47th floor, but a corner office on the executive level. The walls displayed framed news articles about the Pathways Initiative, alongside photographs of program participants. A knock at her door interrupted her reflection. Rebecca entered, closing the door behind her. Impressive ceremony, she said, settling into a chair. The board is thrilled with the program's success. The participants did the hard work, Elena replied. They just needed the opportunity. Rebecca studied her thoughtfully. You've adjusted well to executive life. Not everyone makes that transition so smoothly. Eleanor smiled. I spent 15 years in academia. Office politics are tame by comparison. True enough. Rebecca leaned forward. But there's another transition coming. Nathan is stepping down as CEO. The news struck Eleanor like a physical force. When? Why? End of the quarter. His decision. He's recommended me as his replacement with board approval. Rebecca paused. Which means my COO position will open up. I'd like you to consider it. Eleanor sat back, momentarily speechless. Chief Operating Officer, second in command of the entire company. A meteoric rise from cleaning floors just a year ago. That's unexpected, she managed finally. Is it? You've demonstrated exceptional leadership, strategic thinking, and people management. The Pathways Initiative has transformed our corporate culture and received national recognition. You're the logical choice. There would be resistance, Elena noted, from executives who've been here for years waiting for that position. Rebecca shrugged. Of course. Leadership always faces resistance. The question is whether you're ready to face it. After Rebecca left, Eleanor sat alone, processing the unexpected offer. COO would mean stepping back from direct oversight of the Pathways Initiative, though she could ensure its continuation. It would mean more power to implement structural changes, but also more political complexities to navigate. And it would mean working more closely with Rebecca as the new CEO, not Nathan. That evening, Eleanor visited her mother, finding Maria in the garden room at Cedar Grove. These visits had become more challenging as her mother's condition progressed, good days increasingly rare. Today, Maria stared out the window, her expression vacant until Elena sat beside her. Anak, she said, recognition flickering. You came. I always come, Mama, Elena replied, taking her hand. I have news to share. She explained the COO offer in simple terms. Maria listened, occasionally nodding, though Eleanor wasn't certain how much she understood. You climb so high now, Maria said finally. From cleaning floors to big office. Yes, Mama, it's been a strange journey. Maria's gaze sharpened momentarily. Not strange? Justice? You always had this in you. Others just couldn't see. As Eleanor left Cedar Grove, her mother's words echoed in her mind. Justice, not miracle. Revelation of what was always there, not transformation into something new. The next morning, she requested a meeting with Nathan. They met in his office, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline. Rebecca told me about her offer, Nathan said once pleasantries were exchanged, and about my successor announcement. She did, Eleanor confirmed. I didn't realize you were planning to step down. Nathan gestured to the skyline. 10 years as CEO is enough. The company needs fresh perspective. He turned to face her. What did you tell Rebecca about the COO position? That I needed time to consider it. He nodded. It's a significant jump. Some would say too significant, too quickly. Would you say that? She asked directly. Nathan considered her question. A year ago, absolutely. Now, he shook his head. Now I know better than to underestimate you. But you have concerns. Not about your capabilities, he clarified. About timing. The Pathways Initiative is still establishing itself. A leadership change could make it vulnerable. Elena had considered this as well. Rebecca has committed to continuing support. Commitments change under pressure, Nathan noted. As COO, you'd face challenges beyond the initiative. Budget fights, territory, disputes between divisions. Less time for the work that clearly drives you. His assessment was fair, his tone free of condescension. This was not the Nathan who had mockingly challenged her to translate a document for his salary. This was a seasoned executive offering genuine counsel. Why are you really leaving? Eleanor asked, changing direction. Nathan looked surprised by the question, then resigned. Because it's time. Because 10 years in any position leads to stagnation, and because, he hesitated, because the company I've built doesn't fully reflect the values I now believe in. The Pathways Initiative exposed that gap. I'd rather leave than pretend to be something I'm not. His honesty was unexpected and oddly moving. Eleanor realized they had both been transformed by their collision a year ago, her path ascending as his reached its conclusion. Whatever you decide about the COO role, Nathan said, know that your impact here has been profound and lasting. You've changed Skyline for the better. As Elena left his office, she carried the weight of decision. COO would mean broader influence, but less direct involvement with the work that had given her renewed purpose. It would mean proving herself again in new arenas, facing new forms of skepticism and resistance. But it would also mean the chance to reshape systems, not just programs, to create more paths for more invisible people to become seen. The elevator doors closed, carrying her down to the floor where her journey had begun, where she had once pushed a cleaning cart through silent corridors before dawn, where she had been invisible until one moment of recognition changed everything. The executive dining room hummed with controlled energy as Elena entered. Conversations paused briefly, acknowledging her presence before resuming. After 8 months as VP, she was no longer a novelty, but her trajectory from janitor to executive still carried an aura of the extraordinary. She joined Rebecca at a corner table, where plans for the upcoming leadership transition were spread between their lunch plates. Nathan's departure announcement had generated significant media interest, with business publications speculating about Skyline's future direction. The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive on your story if you accept the COO position, Rebecca said, sliding a message across the table. They're calling it From Mop to Mahogany Row. Eleanor grimaced. That's terrible. Agreed. But the publicity could boost the Pathways initiative nationally. Other companies are already inquiring about implementing similar programs. Eleanor considered this as she reviewed the transition timeline. In 3 weeks, Nathan would step down, Rebecca would ascend to CEO, and Elena would need to have made her decision about the COO role. I'm still concerned about maintaining momentum for Pathways if I move to operations, Eleanor admitted. Rebecca nodded. I've been thinking about that. What if we promoted Sophia to director of the initiative? She embodies its success and has the management background to lead it effectively. The suggestion was sound. Sophia had excelled as a financial analyst and continued mentoring program participants in her spare time. She understood the initiative's purpose and mechanics intimately. She'd be excellent, Elena agreed, but she's only been in her current role for 6 months. Some might question the promotion. Let them question, Rebecca replied with a dismissive wave. Results speak louder than tenure. As they finished lunch, Elliot joined them, briefly. The quarterly numbers look strong, he reported. Nathan's leaving on a high note. The board is pleased with the succession plan. He glanced at Elena, assuming all pieces fall into place. The subtle pressure wasn't lost on her. The board expected her acceptance, had perhaps already factored it into their approval of the broader transition. Later that afternoon, Elena met with her Pathways team to review the latest cohort's progress. 27 employees were currently advancing through the program, representing departments from across the company. Their success stories varied. A mailroom clerk now training as an IT specialist, a cafeteria worker joining the marketing team, a parking attendant discovering aptitude for architectural drafting. We've had an inquiry from Mr. Carter's daughter, reported James Lynn, Elena's deputy director. She's completed the technical training and wants to apply for the junior developer position in digital products. She'd be perfect for it, Elena agreed. Make sure her application gets proper consideration. After the meeting, Eleanor found herself drawn to the building's lower levels, maintenance areas, staff lounges, storage, rooms, spaces where Skyline's invisible workforce still operated, even as some of their colleagues ascended to new roles. In the basement break room, she encountered Miss Edna, the cafeteria manager, who had joined the second Pathways cohort, but chosen to remain in food service, using her new management training to reorganize the department. Professor, Edna exclaimed, what brings you down to our domain? Just checking in, Elena replied, accepting the coffee Edna offered. How are the changes working out? Edna beamed. Productivity up 30%, staff turnover down to almost nothing, and my people are happier. They know there's a path forward if they want it. That was always the goal, Elena said. Options, not obligations. Value in every role. Speaking of options, Edna ventured, rumor has it you're being considered for COO. News traveled fast through the invisible networks of support staff, often faster than through official channels. It's been discussed, Elena acknowledged. You should take it, Edna said firmly. Some doors only open once. Elena smiled at the echoes of her mother's advice. I'm still weighing the impact on the initiative. The initiative will continue, Edna assured her. It's bigger than any one person now, even you. The wisdom in Edna's words stayed with Elena as she returned to her office. There she found an unexpected visitor waiting. Nathan stood at her window, gazing out at the city as she had once seen him do from his own office. He turned as she entered. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion," he said. "I wanted to speak with you before things get hectic with the transition." "Of course," Elena replied, gesturing to the seating area. "What's on your mind?" Nathan settled into a chair, his usual commanding presence softened by what appeared to be genuine uncertainty. "I've been reflecting on our journey," he began. "From that day in the conference room to now, it's been transformative." Eleanor nodded, waiting for him to continue. "The thing is," he said carefully, "I'm not just leaving Skyline, I'm starting something new, a foundation focused on workplace equity and economic mobility, creating systemic pathways for overlooked talent across industries." He paused. "I'd like you to consider joining me as co-director." The offer stunned her. "You want me to leave Skyline?" "I want you to consider a different path to the same goal you're already pursuing," he clarified. "The Pathways Initiative has succeeded within Skyline. Imagine expanding that model nationally, working with hundreds of companies, changing thousands of lives." Elena studied him, searching for hidden motives but finding only earnest purpose. "Why me specifically?" "Because you've lived both sides of the equation. Because you understand the human dignity at stake. And because," he hesitated, "because we make a good team when we're aligned on purpose." The proposition was unexpected, but undeniably compelling. The foundation would allow her to scale the impact of her work beyond a single corporation, yet it would mean leaving the company that had finally recognized her value, the team she had built, the program that had become her mission. "I need time to think about this," she said finally. "Of course," Nathan replied, rising. "Take all the time you need. The foundation launches after my departure from Skyline, so there's no rush." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Whatever you decide, Elena, know that your work here has been transformative, not just for the company, but for me. Personally, you made me see differently. That's a rare gift." After he left, Elena sat in quiet reflection. Two paths now stretched before her, COO of Skyline or co-director of Nathan's foundation. Each offered different forms of influence, different types of impact. Each would require sacrifices and present unique challenges. That evening, as she drove to Cedar Grove, Elena mentally weighed her options. The COO role offered prestige, security, and institutional power. The foundation represented purpose, innovation, and potentially broader impact. Both were opportunities she could never have imagined a year ago when she pushed a cleaning cart through silent corridors before dawn. At Cedar Grove, she found her mother in the memory garden, dozing in her wheelchair. The facility had been transformative for Maria. Better care, more engagement, slower progression of her symptoms, all made possible by Elena's changed circumstances. As she sat beside her mother, Elena noticed a familiar figure across the garden. Nathan, visiting an elderly woman who resembled him around the eyes. Their gazes met briefly, acknowledgement passing between them before he returned his attention to what Eleanor now realized must be his mother. The unexpected glimpse into his personal life reminded her that everyone contained hidden depths, invisible histories. Even Nathan Whitmore had quiet responsibilities, private concerns beyond his corporate persona. When Maria woke, she recognized Elena immediately. "A good day." "You look worried, Anak," she observed, reaching for Elena's hand. "New problems." "At work?" "Not problems, Mama," Elena replied with a smile. "Just choices, important ones." Maria nodded sagely. "The hardest thing is not climbing up. It's choosing which mountain to climb." The simple wisdom struck Elena profoundly. Her mother, despite her condition, still occasionally offered perfect clarity. As twilight settled over the garden, Eleanor sat quietly beside Maria, the weight of decision balanced by the peace of perspective. Whatever path she chose, she would no longer be invisible. Her voice would be heard, her impact felt. The true challenge now was not proving her worth, but deciding how best to use the influence she had earned through her remarkable journey from shadow to light. Two paths stretched before Eleanor, each offering different futures, different impacts. The choice consumed her thoughts as she moved through her days at Skyline, attending meetings, overseeing the Pathways Initiative, mentoring participants. 1 week remained before Nathan's departure and Rebecca's ascension. The pressure for Elena's decision about the COO position mounted with each passing day. Meanwhile, Nathan's foundation proposal lingered like an alternative universe, tempting and unknown. On Wednesday morning, Eleanor conducted interviews for the third Pathways cohort. Among the applicants was Mrs. Gonzalez, a 60-year-old custodian who had worked at Skyline for 17 years. "I never thought to apply before," Mrs. Gonzalez admitted. "At my age, who starts something new? But my grandson said, Abuela, Professor Santos was older than you when she changed everything. So, here I am." The simple statement hit Elena with unexpected force. Her story had become more than personal vindication. It had become permission for others to imagine different futures, regardless of age or position. Later that day, Elena scheduled meetings with the three people whose perspectives she valued most. First was Sophia, now flourishing in her financial analyst role while mentoring new Pathways participants. "You're considering leaving?" Sophia asked when Elena shared Nathan's offer. "I'm considering all options," Elena clarified. "The COO position would keep me at Skyline, but shift my focus to broader operations. The foundation would take me elsewhere, but expand the Pathways model nationally." Sophia considered this. "When I first saw you translate that contract, standing there, in your cleaning uniform, it changed what I believed was possible, not just for you, but for all of us in uniforms." She paused. "Whatever you choose, that impact remains." Next, Elena met with Rebecca, whose transition to CEO was already underway. "Nathan told me about his offer," Rebecca said, surprising Elena. "He felt I should know given the timing." "I haven't made any decisions," Elena assured her. Rebecca studied her thoughtfully. "The COO role is yours if you want it. You've earned it. But I know you well enough now to understand that title and salary aren't your primary motivators." "They're not," Elena agreed. "Then answer this. Where can you do the most good? Where can your unique perspective create the most meaningful change?" Rebecca leaned forward. "I want you beside me. At Skyline. But I want that for somewhat selfish reasons. The question is what you want, what impact you're meant to have." Her final meeting was with Elliot, whose initial skepticism about her promotion had transformed into genuine respect. "I'm torn between two paths," she explained after outlining both options. Elliot removed his glasses, polishing them slowly. "When I first joined Skyline, 30 years ago, the building maintenance staff included a man named Joseph, brilliant mathematician, couldn't find academic work because he'd emigrated from Nigeria without the right credentials. Cleaned floors for 18 years until retirement." He replaced his glasses. "I often wonder what contributions were lost because no one created a path for him." His implication was clear. The pathways. Work mattered, regardless of which institutional structure housed it. That evening, Elena visited her mother, finding Maria in a rare moment of complete lucidity. "I have to make a big decision, Mama," Elena explained, outlining both opportunities. Maria listened carefully. "This man who offered you the foundation position, he's the one who mocked you, who didn't see you until you forced him to." "Yes," Elena admitted. "But he's changed, or at least he's trying to." "And the company? Has it truly changed?" Elena considered this. "Parts have. Rebecca has embraced the Pathways initiative completely. Many executives support it now, but systems are harder to change than individuals." Maria nodded slowly. "When I was a girl in Manila, before we came to America, my father told me something I never forgot. He said, 'Maria, never mistake a moment of recognition for a lifetime of respect. Moments are easy. Systems are hard.' The wisdom resonated deeply. Skyline had given Eleanor a moment of dramatic recognition, followed by opportunity. But had the system fundamentally changed? Would her presence as COO ensure lasting transformation, or would institutional resistance gradually erode her? Impact. Nathan's foundation offered the chance to build something new from the ground up, a system designed specifically to create pathways for the overlooked and invisible. It carried risks, certainly, but also the potential for broader, more systemic change. As she drove home from Cedar Grove, Elena's path clarified. The decision crystallized not from ambition or safety, but from purpose, from the question of where her unique journey could create the most meaningful impact for others, still invisible in corporate shadows. The next morning, Elena requested meetings with both Nathan and Rebecca. To Rebecca, she spoke first. "I'm deeply honored by the COO offer," she began, "but I've decided to join Nathan's foundation." Rebecca's disappointment was evident, though professional. "May I ask, why?" "Because the Pathways initiative has taken root at Skyline," Elena explained. It has you as a champion, Sophia as its next leader, and institutional support. But there are thousands of other companies without similar programs, millions of invisible workers without paths forward. The Foundation can scale this model nationally, creating systemic change beyond what's possible from within one corporation. Rebecca nodded slowly. I understand your reasoning, though I'll miss your partnership. Will you stay through the transition? Of course, Elena promised. And I'll ensure everything is prepared for Sophia to take over the initiative seamlessly. Her meeting with Nathan was briefer. I've decided to accept your offer, she told him, with certain conditions. Name them, he replied. Equal partnership in shaping the Foundation's mission and operations, complete transparency in funding and governance, and a commitment to measuring impact through human stories, not just statistics. Nathan extended his hand. Agreed on all counts. We start work in January. The news of Eleanor's decision spread quickly through Skyline. Some executives expressed surprise, others, disappointment. But among the Pathways participants there was understanding, even celebration of her choice to expand the model that had changed their lives. In the weeks leading to her departure, Elena worked tirelessly to ensure a smooth transition. She conducted extensive training sessions with Sophia, documented processes, and secured long-term funding commitments for the initiative. You sure I'm ready for this? Sophia asked during their final handover meeting. More than ready, Eleanor assured her. You've lived this journey from both sides. You understand what's at stake better than anyone. On her last official day at Skyline, Eleanor arrived early, dawn barely breaking over the Manhattan skyline. She rode the elevator to the executive floor, now empty and silent. For one. Last time, she walked the corridors where she had once pushed a cleaning cart, invisible to those who now knew her name. In the conference room where her transformation had begun, she stood for a moment in quiet reflection. The glass table gleamed in the early light, the skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. So much had changed in this room, in this building, in her life. As the sun rose fully, Elena Santos, former janitor, former professor, soon-to-be foundation director, left Skyline Developments for the last time, carrying with her not just her own remarkable story, but the responsibility to create new stories of recognition, opportunity and dignity for others still waiting to be seen. 1 year later, the Visibility Foundation occupied a modest office space in downtown Manhattan. The reception area displayed a simple mission statement, creating pathways for overlooked talent in American workplaces. Beneath it hung photographs of program participants, maintenance workers becoming technicians, food service staff becoming managers, security guards becoming IT specialists. Eleanor's office reflected her journey, academic credentials alongside her old Skyline ID, badge, the $15,000 check from Nathan, framed as a reminder of the moment everything changed. On her desk sat a photograph of her mother, taken during their last lucid conversation before Maria's condition had deteriorated significantly. The foundation had partnered with 27 companies in its first year, establishing Pathways-inspired programs that had already advanced over 300 employees to new positions. Each success story validated Elena's decision, though the work was challenging, the resistance from traditional corporate structures often formidable. Nathan proved a surprisingly effective partner. His business connections opened doors, while Elena's lived experience lent authenticity to their mission. They disagreed frequently but productively, each pushing the other toward more innovative approaches. The quarterly report looks strong, Nathan remarked, entering Elena's office with a folder. Placement rates exceeding projections, retention at 92%. Numbers are good, Elena agreed, but I'm more interested in the testimonials. She handed him a collection of letters from program participants, one from a former janitor now working as an accounting assistant, another from a cafeteria worker who had become a human resources coordinator, a third from a maintenance technician now training as an engineer. These are the real metrics, she said. Lives changed, dignity restored, potential recognized. Nathan nodded, genuinely moved. The board meeting is this afternoon. We should showcase both, the statistics and the stories. The Visibility Foundation's board included corporate leaders, education experts, and crucially former support staff who had advanced through career pathway programs. This diverse governance ensured multiple perspectives informed their strategy. As Elena prepared for the meeting, her phone rang, Sophia calling from Skyline. "How's everything there?" Elena asked, genuinely curious about the company she had left behind. "Thriving," Sophia reported. "We've expanded the initiative to all regional offices. Rebecca's been incredibly supportive as CEO. And guess what? Mr. Carter's daughter just got promoted to lead developer." "That's wonderful news," Elena replied, warmly remembering the security guard whose daughter had joined the program's second cohort. "Actually, that's why I'm calling," Sophia continued. "We're hosting a recognition event next month for all Pathways graduates. The board would like you to give the keynote address." Eleanor hesitated. She hadn't returned to Skyline since her departure. "I'm not sure. Please, consider it," Sophia urged. "It would mean so much to everyone, especially the new participants who know your story but have never met you." After ending the call, Elena sat reflecting on the invitation. Returning to Skyline would close a circle, connecting her past to the future she was helping create. That evening, Elena visited Cedar Grove. Maria's condition had progressed significantly over the past year. Recognition came rarely now, conversations impossible. Yet Elena continued her regular visits, sitting beside her mother, sharing updates on her life and work even without response. "We're making progress, Mama," she said softly, holding Maria's hand. "Creating pathways for people like me, like I was. People no one sees until they force the world to look." As she spoke, Maria's eyes flickered with momentary focus. Her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around Elena's. "You understand, don't you?" Elena whispered. "Even now, you still see me." The moment passed quickly, Maria's gaze drifting back to somewhere unreachable. But the brief connection fortified Elena, reminding her why her work mattered, why visibility, recognition, and dignity were not luxuries, but necessities of human existence. 1 month later, Elena stood at the podium in Skyline's auditorium, facing an audience that included current executives, Pathways, graduates, and participants from all 3 years of the program. Rebecca sat in the front row alongside Elliot. Nathan had declined to attend, understanding that his presence might complicate the celebration. 3 years ago, Elena began, I stood in this building invisible. I cleaned offices before dawn, heard conversations no one thought I understood, witnessed decisions no one thought I comprehended. My education, my skills, my potential, all hidden behind a uniform that rendered me unseen. She paused, surveying the audience. But invisibility is not the natural state of any human being. It is a condition imposed by systems that categorize, that separate, that determine who belongs where based on assumptions rather than potential. What the Pathways Initiative proves, what each of you proves by your presence here today, is that those systems can change when we dare to challenge them. From the audience, faces looked back at her with recognition, with understanding, with shared experience. Mr. Carter, still in his security uniform, but wearing it with new pride. Miss Edna, who had revolutionized the cafeteria operations. Mrs. Gonzalez, the 60-year-old custodian, who had found a new path as an administrative assistant. Your journeys are all different, Eleanor continued. Some of you have moved into entirely new careers. Others have advanced within your original departments. Some have chosen to remain in roles you've always held, but with new recognition, new respect, new compensation for your contributions. All of these paths are valid, all valuable, all visible. She spoke of the Visibility Foundation's work, extending the Pathways model to companies across the country. She acknowledged Rebecca's leadership in maintaining and expanding the initiative at Skyline. She honored Sophia's transition from participant to director. What began as a moment of recognition, a translation that forced others to see me, has become a movement of recognition, a collective insistence that talent, intelligence, and capability exist everywhere, often hidden in plain sight behind uniforms, accents, backgrounds, or circumstances. As she concluded her address, Elena felt the completion of a circle, not an ending, but a continuation, the ripple effects of her story extending outward, creating new stories, new recognitions, new paths forward. The standing ovation that followed wasn't just for her, she knew, but for everyone who had ever been invisible and found their way to being seen. Later, as Elena moved through the reception, she was approached by a young maintenance worker, uniform pressed, eyes bright with determination. "Professor Santos," he said nervously, "your story changed how I see myself. I've applied for the next Pathways cohort. I want to become a teacher someday." "What's your name?" Elena asked. "Miguel," he replied. "Remember this moment, Miguel," she told him. "The moment you decided to become visible. Everything changes from here." As she drove home that evening, Elena reflected on the distance she had traveled, from cleaning floors in pre-dawn darkness to leading a foundation that created pathways for others like her. Former self, from invisibility to impact, from silence to voice. The journey hadn't been about personal vindication or career advancement, though both had occurred. It had been about transformation, not just her own, but rippling outward to change systems, perceptions, possibilities. In her apartment, Elena looked at her mother's photograph, remembering Maria's words from that garden. Conversation. "The hardest thing is not climbing up. It's choosing which mountain to climb." She had chosen her mountain, and from its summit she could now help others find their own paths upward, out of shadow into light, out of invisibility into recognition, out of silence into the full expression of their human potential. Not everyone would have a dramatic moment of revelation like her. Translation in that conference room. But everyone deserved the chance to be seen, to be valued, to contribute according to their true capabilities. That was Elena Santos's legacy, not just her own remarkable journey from janitor to executive, but the countless journeys she had helped make possible for others still waiting to be discovered, to be recognized, to become gloriously, undeniably visible.